to you today from beautiful Vienna, Austria. A little bit different for us, and we're extremely excited to be in Europe. Now, when I think Vienna, I'm thinking structure, discipline, tradition. All of these qualities, one could say, should apply to security industry training. Do they, though? If you want to find out, make sure you watch the vlog. Kevin, this was a bit of a hike getting here and pushing through the crowd. So this is called Stephen's Platz?
Stephen's Platz.
Okay.
Yes. And so just behind us here is Stephen's Church, or Kirche in German. Mm-hmm. And St. Stephen's has been here for, I think, centuries. You know, it's absolutely stunning inside.
Yeah.
Tons and tons of history here.
Amazing. I just can't stop looking at the architecture.
Yeah. And the crowds are big because it's Christmas market time.
Yes.
So we found a quiet corner to
kind of. Yeah. So when I look at these crowds, I immediately start thinking security issues, because obviously that's just in our blood, and specifically active shooter scenarios. Now, tying it back into training, I feel like active shooter used to be one of the primary areas of focus in training, and that has definitely changed. And as I continue to work with different industry associations, I know there's a little bit of a shift towards issues like other types of assailants, even irate customers, homeless related issues. So in your experience creating training programs for your customers, what have you seen in terms of this area, and what are some of the points of focus these days?
Well, first of all, I'm hearing you say the word active shooter, and we've kind of really evolved away from that, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's not just about shooters, right? Yeah. It's really an active threat or active assailant, because I could be using a knife, I could be using a machete, I could be using a gun, I could be using a car. I mean, in this marketplace that we're at here today, these roads aren't closed off. So it's situational awareness is very key. Mm-hmm. And situational awareness is a funny term, because people are like, oh, you got to be scared all the time. Situational awareness isn't about fear. It's just about readiness, right? Yeah. It's just about observing your surroundings, but practicing it so that it just becomes a natural habit, right? You've got that already, because the other thing you said was, I see this and I think, right? Which is exactly where years of training and years of reinforcement, right, have got your brain to go, right? Where it just becomes natural. You look around and you're like, okay, I'm not going to walk in the middle of the crowd. I'm going to stay out the side of the crowd. I'm not going to get, in a place where I can't get away from, right? Yeah. And you're going to think through some of the scenarios as you're walking along. Okay, if something goes wrong, I've got a store I can duck into, or I've got a street I can go up, that kind of thing, right? Yeah. But you're seeing that evolution from just talking about shooters to talking about these other types of aggressors. We're seeing how the training is funneling down into just even everyday scenarios, right? So we want to address aggressiveness, whether it's somebody who's violently coming at you, or it's just someone who's arguing with you over, a return, or over getting an order wrong, or, what have you, right? What are the skills that you can instill in someone to help them stay safe, right? That's one of the core pillars. We want everybody to stay safe. So we want to make sure that they have the training and understanding and the reinforcement to get it in that mindset of, how do I stay safe in this situation? How do I react to this person who's acting aggressively towards me? Whether that person is, like you said, somewhat an aggressive customer, or a situation where things might be a little more escalated.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the, I would say, mistakes, I kind of have to call it that I see, is using the same type of training for all kinds of scenarios, right? And dealing with an active shooter is very different than dealing with an irate customer who is not a typical criminal, or even a homeless person, or someone with mental issues, right? So I think it's very important to be modular.
Absolutely. Well, and, there are situations like that where you're emphasizing empathy as part of de-escalation, right?
Exactly.
Because you're dealing with someone who's unhoused and you're dealing with a situation where you're going to show a little bit more understanding, whereas in an active threat situation, it's less about the understanding and more about the core safety. Am I going to run? Am I going to hide? Am I going to fight?
Yeah. And I want to circle back to something you said, which is the fun word fear. I do get feedback sometimes from customers about, this training actually making some of the people uncomfortable, right? Because you think about these high risk, high threat situations. So how do you deliver that message without actually causing more fear within the employees?
You know what? It's part of knowing your audience, right? Because you could look at active threat training across a number of different organizations and you will see very different delivery, right? I know a particular grocery store where they've had a lot of active shooter situations. Their training is very hyper realistic and their audience is fine with that because unfortunately they've got accustomed to that. They understand, yes, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I know another retailer who tried to use that same approach and had managers, essentially calling in sick the next day and saying, I can't, I don't want to come back to work, and then going for counseling, for like PTSD over their training program because it was, and that's not effective, right? That's not what you're trying to get at, right? It was very triggering. So you have to know the audience, take the topic, know the audience, and know the best way to get the message across that they're going to relate to it, understand it, absorb it, but not necessarily be afraid of it.
Yeah. And I would say another way to just emphasize the importance to an employee is also, this isn't just for you to use in your workplace, right? A lot of these trainings can be used in your personal life. To me, that's a huge selling point, which I don't think is emphasized enough.
Well, it's a huge selling point. It's a huge selling point for the organization who's delivering the training, right? What you want your employees to know that, look, we care about you and we want you to get home in the same condition that you showed up at work today. And we want you to come back tomorrow. So we want you to not only be safe here at work, but we want you to be safe, when you're out and about doing your daily activities, right? Yeah. So those same skill sets that are teaching you how to run, to hide, to fight at work are the same ones you should be using when you're walking down Stevens Plots.
Exactly.
Right? Or when you're sitting in a restaurant, in a cafe, and having a cup of coffee. Yeah. Right? If something goes wrong, you've got to know, and you've got to have those skill sets kind of ingrained into you a little bit to keep yourself safe. Yeah, huge benefit for all aspects of life. So absolutely. All right, how about we continue our walk and push through these crowds a little bit? I want to see more of Vienna. Let's do it, but we're going to stay a little to the side. Yes. And we're going to listen as much as we look. Yes. Right. All right. Deal. Let's do this. All righty. Let's go.